Hello students, how are you all? I'm sure you all are fine and taking good care of yourself. So children, let's begin with our next chapter, which is rural life and society. Points to study: British agrarian policy, the permanent settlement, Rayotwadi settlement, Mehelwadi settlement, circumstances leading to popular revolt, major uprisings, nature and significance of early resistance, Namdhari movement. British agrarian policy. It is a well-known fact that India is primarily an agricultural country. The overwhelming majority of its people depend on agriculture for sustenance. If the crop is good, prosperity prevails, otherwise it leads to famine and starvation. Till the 18th century, there was a strong relation between agriculture and cottage industry in India. India was not only ahead in the field of agriculture than most other countries, but it also held a prominent place in the world in the field of handicraft production. The British destroyed handicraft industry in the country while unleashing far-reaching changes in the country's agrarian structure by introducing new system of land tenure and policies of revenue administration. India's national income, foreign trade, industrial expansion and almost every other dominant of economic activity dependent on the country's agriculture. The British policies revolve around getting maximum income from land without caring much about Indian interest of the cultivators. They abandoned the age-old system of revenue administration and adopted in their place a ruthless policy of revenue collection. After their advent, the British principally adopted three types of land tenure. Roughly 19% of the total area under the British rule, i.e. Bengal, Bihar, Banaras, divisions of the northwestern provinces and northern Karnataka was brought under the zamindari system or the permanent settlement. The second revenue system, called the Mehelwadi settlement, was introduced in about 30% of the total area under British rule, i.e. in major parts of the northwestern province, central province and the Punjab. With some variation, the Rayotwadi system covered about 51% of the area under British rule, comprising part of the Bombay and Madras presidencies, Assam and certain other parts of British India. तो बच्चों, ब्रिटिशर जब इंडिया नहीं आए थे तो जो एग्रीकल्चर था इंडिया का वो काफ़ी फल फूल रहा था. जितने भी किसान थे उनकी अपनी अपनी खेत हुआ करती थी जिसमें वो खुद की खेती किया करते थे. लेकिन ब्रिटिशर्स के आने के बाद काफ़ी ज़्यादा रेवेन्यू वगैरह जो था वो ब्रिटिशर्स ने लागू कर दिया था और इवन जो किसान थे उनसे उनके खेत वगैरह भी छीन लिए गए थे. उनसे ज़्यादा रेवेन्यू वगैरह कलेक्ट किया जाता था बिना ये जाने कि उनका क्या हाल होगा. मतलब क्योंकि कभी कभी क्या होता था, अकाल वगैरह आ जाता जिसकी वजह से जो किसान थे वो लोन वगैरह लेते थे और इसकी वजह से बहुत ही दयनीय स्थिति उनकी हो जाया करती थी. द परमानेंट सेटलमेंट, Lord Cornwallis' most conspicuous administrative measure was the permanent land revenue settlement of Bengal, which was extended to the provinces of Bihar and Odisha. It is appropriate to recall that Warren Hastings introduced the annual lease system of auctioning the land to the higher bidder. It created chaos in the revenue administration. Cornwallis, at the time of his appointment, was instructed by the directors to find a satisfactory and permanent solution to the problem of the land revenue system in order to protect the interest of both the company and the cultivators. It obliged the Governor General to make a thorough inquiry into the usage, tenure and rent that prevalent in Bengal. The whole problem occupied Lord Cornwallis for over 3 years, and after a prolonged discussion with his colleagues like Sir John Shore and James Grant, he decided to abolish the annual lease system and introduce a decennial 10-year settlement, which was subsequently declared to be continuous. The main features of a permanent settlement was as follows. The zamindars of Bengal were recognized as the owner of the land long as they paid the revenue of the East India Company regularly. The amount of revenue that the zamindar had to pay to the company was firmly fixed and would not be raised under any circumstances. In other words, the government of East India Company got 89%, leaving the rest to the zamindar. The Rayot became tenant since they were considered the tiller of the soil. This settlement took away the administrative and judicial function of the Zamindar. The permanent settlement of the Cornwallis was bitterly criticized on the point that it was adopted with undue haste. The flagrant defect of this arrangement was that no attempt was made ever either to survey the lands or the assess their value. The assessment was made roughly on the basis of accounts of previous collection, and it was made in an irregular manner. The effect of this system both on the Zamindar and Rayots were disastrous, as the revenue fixed by the system was too high. Many Zamindar defaulted on payment. तो बच्चों यहाँ पे सिस्टम जो था वो लागू किया गया था, परमानेंट सेटलमेंट जो था वो लागू किया गया था ब्रिटिशर्स के थ्रू। यहाँ पे ज़मींदार जो थे बंगाल के, उन्हें रिकॉग्नाइज किया जाता था एज अ लैंड ऑफ ऑनर। ठीक है, उनके पास अपनी अपनी ज़मीन हुआ करती थी जिसका रेवेन्यू जो था वो हमेशा किसको दिया करते थे, ब्रिटिशर्स को दिया करते थे। तो जो अमाउंट था रेवेन्यू का वो ज़मींदारों के लिए फिक्स कर दिया गया था, उसमें से अपना जो हिस्सा था वो लेकर के कंपनी को चुकाते थे। जो रैयत था वो टेनेंट्स के लिए काफ़ी ज़्यादा कंसीडरेबल बन गया था, और जो सेटलमेंट था वो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव और जुडिशियल फंक्शंस को अवे कर दिया गया था, ले लिया गया था किससे, ज़मींदारों से। Their property was seized and distress sales were conducted, leading to their ruin. The rich zamindars who led luxurious lives their villages and migrated into towns. They entrusted their rent collection to the agents who exacted all kind of illegal taxes beside the legal ones from the ryots. This had resulted in a great deal of misery amongst the peasants and farmers. Therefore, Lord Cornwallis' idea of building system of benevolent landlordism failed. Baden-Powell remarked the zamindars as a class did nothing for the tenants. Though initially the company gained financially, in the long run to the company suffered financial loss because land productivity was high, income from it was meager since it was a fixed sum. It should be noted that in pre-British period a share on the crop was fixed as land tax. Nevertheless, this system proved to be a great boon to the zamindar and to the government of Bengal. It formed a regular income and established the government of the company. The zamindars prospered at the cost of the welfare of the tenants. जितने भी जो पीजेंट्स वगैरह हुआ करते थे, किसान वगैरह जो हुआ करते थे, उन पर जो टैक्स वगैरह था वो लगा हुआ करता था। इवन जो लोग यात्रा पे जाते थे उन पे भी ये टैक्स लगाया जाता था ब्रिटिशर्स के थ्रू, जिससे काफ़ी वो परेशान होते थे। और इसके बाद ये जो टैक्स था ये सरकार को टाइम टू टाइम वापस लेना होता था, या जो उसका रेवेन्यू का जो हिस्सा था, जो परसेंटेज था, वो कम करना होता था। Rayotwari settlement. The Rayotwari settlement was introduced mainly in Madras, Berar, Bombay and Assam. Sir Thomas Munro introduced this system in the Madras Presidency. Under this settlement, the peasant was recognized as the proprietor of land. There was no intermediary like a zamindar between the peasant and the government. So long as he paid the revenue in the time, the peasant was not evicted from the land. Besides, the land revenue was fixed for a period from 20 to 40 years at a time. Every peasant was held personally responsible for direct payments of land revenue to the government. However, in the end, this system also failed. Under this system settlement, it was certainly not possible to collect revenue in a systematic manner. The revenue official indulged in harsh measures for non-payment or delayed पेमेंट। अब इसके बाद रैयत वाली सेटलमेंट हुआ था ब्रिटिशर्स एंड जो किसान थे उनके बीच में। ये जो सेटलमेंट था इसमें इस तरह का जो तर्क थे वो रखे गए थे कि इसमें जो पूरा लैंड था जो भी एक्वायर किया जाता था किसान के थ्रू वो पूरा उनको दे दिया गया था। बस उनसे क्या लिया जाता था, उनकी जो खेती का एक हिस्सा उनसे मांगा जाता था एज ए रेवेन्यू, एज ए टैक्स। लेकिन कुछ टाइम के बाद ये जो सेटलमेंट था ये भी फेल हो गया था और इसे सरकार के द्वारा वापस ले लिया गया था। Mehalwari settlement. In 1833, the Mehalwari settlement was introduced in Punjab, the central provinces and parts of northwestern provinces. Under this system, the basic unit of revenue settlement was the village of the Mahal. As the village lands belonged jointly to the village community, the responsibility of paying the revenue rested with the entire Mahal or the village community. So, the entire land of the village was measured at the time of fixing the revenue. Though the Mehalwari system eliminated middlemen between the government and the village community and brought about improvement in irrigation facility. Yet its benefits was largely enjoyed by the government. The early years of the English East India Company rule in India witnessed a large number of uprisings and rebellions. As we have learned over a period of 100 years, starting from 1750s to 1850s, the English East India Company adopted various measures to transform India into a colony. Different policies followed by the British in India during this period were primarily in the interest of the British. A number of land revenue experiments were made which caused hardship to cultivators. Local administration failed to provide relief and natural justice to the rural people. In this lesson, we will learn how the peasantry and tribal people suffered under the colonial administration and why they resorted to the revolts. With a brief narration of important popular uprising, we will analyze the nature and significance of these uprisings. The revolt of 1857 has a major significance because for the first time it brought together people having different ethnic, religious and class backgrounds in a ununified movement against the British rule. तो बच्चों इसके बाद जो महलवारी सिस्टम था वो स्टार्ट किया गया था 1833 में। जो महलवारी सेटलमेंट था वो पंजाब में सबसे पहले इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया था, उसके बाद बाकी के जो नॉर्थ पार्ट थे इंडिया के वहाँ पे इसे इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया था। इस सिस्टम के अंदर ये जो यूनिट हुआ करती थी रेवेन्यू की, वो महल और विलेज में जितने भी आपके कलेक्शन वगैरह आते थे वो सीधा किसको जाते थे, ब्रिटिशर्स को जाते थे। विलेज में जितने भी लैंड होते थे जो किसी विलेज या किसी कम्युनिटी से बिलोंग करते थे, उनका जो रेवेन्यू वगैरह था वो भी किसको दिया जाता था, ब्रिटिशर्स को ही दिया जाता था। हालांकि जो फीजेंट्स वगैरह थे, जो किसान थे, वो उनके इतने भी रेवेन्यू टैक्स वगैरह जो थे उनके सिस्टम से, जो सेटलमेंट थे उनसे काफ़ी परेशान थे, जिसकी वजह से वो टाइम टू टाइम क्या करते रहते थे, विद्रोह वगैरह करते रहते थे और इन सेटलमेंट के खिलाफ आवाज़ उठाते रहते थे। लेकिन जो मेन विद्रोह था 1857 का जो रिवोल्ट था, उसके बाद से जो बाकी के रिवोल्ट्स होने शुरू हो गए थे इंडिया में, किसके खिलाफ, ब्रिटिशर्स के खिलाफ। Circumstances leading to popular revolt. We had read in earlier lessons that the British rule in India had a number of changes in socio-economic life of the Indian people. The Industrial Revolution made it necessary for England to look for raw material and markets in other countries. This necessity guided the policy of the colonial ruler in India. Indian economy was geared to serve the interests of the British masters. Let's recall some of the important changes in Indian economy during this period. A new set of property relation was introduced and land was made saleable commodity. Private ownership of land was recognized and a number of intermediary came into existence in between the owner and the cultivator of the land. Commercial crops were encouraged in place of food crops to serve the British capitalist. Speculation and investment in land by merchants, bureaucrats and landlords led to growth of absentee landlordism. Growing burden of taxation made the cultivators an easy prey to the revenue collection. Merchants and money lenders' transfer of wealth from India to England became a common feature. Local industries were suppressed in order to make a way for British manufactured goods. Tribal lost their traditional rights in land due to land revenue policy of British government. All these changes dealt a serious blow to the rural society, particularly the cultivators and tribals. For the peasants, all the new changes in agrarian economy and social structure meant more intensive and systematic exploitation. To recall, it's again the colonial rulers were concerned only with the collection of the revenue in time, which were fixed at high rates. Zamindar and others who were engaged in collecting the revenue were least concerned about the paying capacity of the cultivators and forcefully collected the taxes. In meeting the increasing demand of taxes, the peasants were compelled to sell their lands or they were caught in the trap of moneylenders. Justice could not be expected from the local administration because it was under the influence of rich. Thus, under the colonial rule, the nexus of the official, the landlord and the moneylender combined together to exploit the peasantry. Bengal famine of 1770 bear testimony to the devastating effect of the British policy over the rural society. Along with the colonization of the economy, changes introduced by the British in local administration and society created discontent and resentment among local population. This contented at various junctures took the form of rebellion. तो बच्चों जब इसकी वजह से टैक्स वगैरह लगाया जाता था तो टैक्स वगैरह इतना फोर्सफुली लोगों से यूज़ किया जाता था या उनसे छीना जाता था, उनसे लिया जाता था, जिसकी वजह से काफ़ी सारे जो किसान थे वो परेशान होकर अपना जो लैंड था, जो खेती वगैरह, वो बड़े लोगों को, जो मर्चेंट्स हुआ करते थे, उनको बेच दिया करते थे। साथ ही साथ वो किसानी छोड़कर, जो अपनी खेती वगैरह छोड़कर, वो दूसरे ऑक्यूपेशन वगैरह अपना लिया करते थे। मेजर अपराइजिंग्स। बिफोर एनालाइजिंग द नेचर एंड importance of early resistance to the British authority, it would be better for us to be introduced to some of the rebellions. From 1760 to the revolt of 1857, there were a large number of rebellions spreading over different parts of India. We will discuss these rebellions in two categories, the peasant uprising and the tribal uprising. अब इसकी वजह से काफ़ी सारे अपराइजिंग हुई थी, काफ़ी सारे जो क्रांतिकारी थे वो उगे थे, वो उत्पन्न हुए थे। क्यों? क्योंकि लोगों से उसका लैंड वगैरह छीन लिया जाता था, उनसे बहुत ज़्यादा टैक्स वगैरह उनसे लिया जाता था, जिसकी वजह से 87 का जो रिवोल्ट था वो स्टार्ट होना शुरू हो गया था। और ये जो रिबिलियंस थे ये टू कैटेगरीज में डिवाइड किए गए थे। एक थे आपके peasant अपराइजिंग एंड दूसरे थे आपके ट्राइबल अपराइजिंग्स। Peasant uprisings. Growing burden of taxation, eviction from land and the Bengal famine led to the impoverishment of a large section of the peasantry. Many of these people being evicted from lands joined the band of sannyasi and fakirs. Though they were religious mendicants, they used to loot the grain stocks of the rich and the treasuries of the local government. The sannyasis often distributed their wealth among the poor and established their own government. However, they could not sustain their struggle for long in the face of strong repressive measures of the British rulers. Bankim Chandra Chatterjee wrote a novel, Ananda Math, to immortalize the Sannyasi rebellion. Peasants of Rangpur and Dinajpur, two districts of Bengal, were aggrieved by the tyranny of the revenue contractor. One such revenue contractor, Debi Singh, created a reign of terror by torturing the peasants in order to collect taxes. When the British officials failed to protect the peasants took the law in their own hand. They attacked the local kacharis and storehouses of the contractor and government officials. The rebels formed their own government and stopped paying revenue to the company agent. This rebellion was in 1783. The rebels were finally forced to surrender before the company officials. In South India, the situation was in no way different. The dispossessed landlords and displaced cultivators raised the banner of revolt. The polygars of Tamil Nadu, Malabar and coastal Andhra revolted against the colonial rule in the late 18th and the early 19th century. The revolt of the Mappilas of Malabar was most significant. The Malipas of Malabar were the descendants of the Arab settlers and converted Hindus. Majority of them were cultivating tenants, landless laborers, petty traders and fishermen. The British conquest of Malabar in the last decades of the 18th century and the introduction of the British Land Revenue Administration in Malabar enraged the Malpallias. Overassessment, illegal taxes, eviction from land and the changes in land ownership right caused growing discontentment among them. Thus, they rose in revolt against the British and the landlords. The religious leaders helped in strengthening the solidarity of Mappilas and in developing anti-British consciousness. These Mappilas were suppressed by the colonial rulers. In northern India, the Jats of western UP and Haryana revolted in 1824. In western India, Maharashtra was a common center of uprising and Gujarat also witnessed the revolt of the Kolis. We can add more to the list of peasants rebellions, but let us look at tribal uprising. अब किसान वगैरह परेशान थे, जो टैक्स वगैरह उन पर लगा हुआ था, इसकी वजह से उन्होंने क्या किया था, ब्रिटिशर्स के खिलाफ और लैंडलॉर्ड्स के खिलाफ उन्होंने क्या कर दिया था, रिवोल्ट जो था वो स्टार्ट कर दिया था. Tribal uprising. The establishment of colonial rule also affected the tribal people. Living outside the boundary of the mainstream population, the tribals lived in their own world, being governed by their own traditions and customs. The colonial government extended their authority to the tribal lands, and the tribals were subjected to various extortions. The tribal resented the entry of the colonial administration into their land. Take the example of the Bhils of Khandes and the Kols of Singhbhum, Bihar, who enjoyed independent power under their chief, but the British occupation of their territories and the entry of merchants, moneylenders, and the British administration in these tribal lands curbed the authority of the tribal chiefs. This led the tribal leaders to revolt against the British rule, and their targets of attack were all outsiders in the tribal territories. The incursions were suppressed by British. Similarly, the Santals had been living in a large tract of land in a border of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. Their livelihood depended upon the flora and fauna of the jungle. With the introduction of the British rule, they were used to clear jungle lands, and once they started cultivation on these lands, they were forcibly evicted. Thus, penetration of lands, merchants and moneylenders into their land brought misery and oppression for the simple living Santals. The oppression forced the Santals to take up arms, and they found their leaders in two brothers, Sindhu and Kanu. It was believed that Sindhu and Kanu had blessings from gods to bring an end to their miseries. They decided to get hold of their lands and to set up their own government. The rebellious Santals were supported by the local Puars like the Gwalas, Telis, Lohars and others. The rebellious Santals ultimately failed in the face of ruthless suppression by the British. अब वो जो ट्राइबल अपराइजिंग के बारे में जान लेते हैं। उस टाइम पे जो छोटे छोटे विलेजेस वगैरह हुआ करते थे, उनके आसपास बहुत सारी छोटी छोटी ट्राइब्स वगैरह हुआ करती थी जो जंगलों में रहा करती थी। लेकिन जब ब्रिटिश ने जो विलेज वगैरह का जो पास पास का एरिया था, जो स्टेट्स वगैरह एक्वायर कर लिया था, तो उन्होंने उनको भी उनसे उनकी जो ज़मीनें थी वो छीन ली थी। जो ट्राइबल्स थे उनको उनका हक वगैरह छीन लिया गया था, उनको ज़मीन देनी पड़ती थी, और जो उनका जंगल का एरिया था जहाँ पे वो रहा करते थे, उनसे वो ज़मीन वगैरह भी छीन ली गई थी ब्रिटिशर्स के थ्रू। तो इसकी वजह से जो ट्राइबल जितनी भी कम्युनिटी थी, उन्होंने ब्रिटिशर्स के खिलाफ आंदोलन छेड़ दिया था। नेचर एंड सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ द अर्ली रेजिस्टेंस। एक्शंस ऑफ द रिबेल्स prove that they were clear about their interests and about their enemies. Some features of the peasant and tribal protest movement demonstrate a certain level of political and social consciousness among them. In many instances, local issues might have triggered off the rebellions, but in the course of the development of the movement, its objective was broadened. Immediate context of a movement may be operation of the local landlord. Once the movement started, it ended up as protest against the British Raj. Religious belief, ethnic ties and tradition played a positive role in mobilizing the peasants and strengthening their solidarity. Where often their notions of their own good old past inspired rebels to recover their lost past. Past basically meant to the rebels to get relief from exploitation and oppression. Attempt was made by the ruling class to define the rebellions as problem of law and order and act of crime. This is complete denial of the peasants' understanding of their grievance and their right to protest. It is necessary to understand the domain of peasant and tribal action in its own terms. However, the rebels did not have a future plan beyond the restoration of the old order. In spite of their limits, objective and narrow world view, the rebels definitely exposed the unpopular character of the colonial rule. हालांकि ये जितने भी रिबेल्स थे, जितने भी रिवॉल्ट्स थे, वो बाद में जाके अनसक्सेसफुल रहे। क्योंकि इनका ऑब्जेक्टिव क्लियर नहीं था और इनके जो व्यूज़ थे वो भी नैरो थे, साथ ही साथ इनके जो सोर्सेज वगैरह थे वो भी लिमिटेड थे। नामधारी मूवमेंट। आफ्टर द फॉल ऑफ किंगडम ऑफ महाराजा रणजीत सिंह, देयर वर सेवरल अटेम्प्ट्स टू रेज द ओल्ड ग्लोरी ऑफ द खालसा. Several movements to reform the Sikhism were started, first one being Namdhari movement, which was started by Baba Ram Singh Namdhari after Anglo-Sikh War. He was a soldier in Khalsa army. Like the Nirankari, this second reform movement, known as the Namdhari or Kuka movement, also had its origin in the northwest corner of the Sikh kingdom, away from the places of royal pomp and grandeurs. It harked back to a way of life more in keeping with the spiritual tradition of the community. Its principal objective was to spread the true spirit of Sikhism, shorn of tawdry customs and mannerism, which had been growing on it since the beginning of Sikh monarchy. In the midst of national pride born of military glory and political power, this movement extolled the religious obligation for a pious and simple living. They were called Kukas because of their peculiar style to recite the Gurbani saying of the Gurus. This style was in a high pitched voice, called Kooks in Punjab, and thus Namdhari Khalsas were named Kukas. The founder Bhai Balak Singh 1799 to 1862 of Hazro was a holy man whose noble example and sweet persuasive manner won him a number of followers. The most prominent among them was Baba Naam Singh, who undertook the direction of the movement after Bhai Balak Singh giving it a more positive orientation. Baba Ram Singh, born at Bhaini in Ludhiana district in 1860, was a soldier in the Sikh army. With his regiment, he once happened to visit Hazro, where he fell under the influence of Bhai Balak Singh. He became his disciple and dedicated himself to his missions. For this religious pursuit, he had ample time in the army, which, towards the end of Ranjit Singh's day, was comparatively free from its more arduous task. In the 1845 Anglo-Sikh War, Baba Ramdev fought against the English at Mudki. He gave up service after the occupation of Lahore and returned to his village, Bhaini, which became another important center of the Namdhari faith. Upon Baba Balak Singh's death in 1862, the chief responsibility passed on to Baba Ram Singh, whose growing influence helped in the extension of the movement in central and eastern Punjab. An elaborate agency for missionary work was set up. The name of the head in the district, Suba, meaning governor, had a significant though remote political implications. There were although 22 such subas beside two jatedar or group leaders for each tehsil and a granthi scripture reader or priest for each village. In the government papers of that period, Baba Ram Singh mission is described as: he abolished all distinction of caste among Sikhism. He advocated indiscriminate marriage of all classes. He enjoined the marriage of widows. He enjoined abstinence from liquor and drugs, exhort his disciple to be cleanly and truth-telling. To the point mentioned could be added a few more, such as reverence for the cow, simpler wedding ceremonies, and abolition of infanticide, which received equal emphasis. Baba Ram Singh was never reconciled to the ruler of the British. His prediction about its early recession was implicitly believed by his follower. To go to courts of law or learn the English language, the movement thus acquired a strong political bias. Its chief inspiration was in fact derived from opposition to the foreign rules, and everything tending to remind one of its was shunned. English education, mill-made cloth and other imported goods were boycotted. In its advocacy of the use of the Swadeshi, the Kuka movement forestalled in the 60s of the last century as important features of the nationalist struggle under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi. Kukas even avoided use of a post of five established by British and dependent upon their own system of postal communication. Messages from their leader were conveyed with special dispatch and alacrity. A fast-riding follower would carry the letter to the next village, where another devotee, settling all other work aside, would at once speed on with 8. People left off their meals unfinished to reach forward a message. तो बच्चों यहाँ पे नामधारी मूवमेंट के बारे में जान लेते हैं जो कि स्टार्ट किया गया था किसके द्वारा? बाबा राम सिंह नामधारी के द्वारा। और ये अगेंस्ट था किसके? जो ब्रिटिश हुआ करते थे उनके। ये एक सोल्जर्स हुआ करते थे इन खालसा आर्मी, और निरंकारी की तरह ये सेकंड रिफॉर्म मूवमेंट जो था उसमें इन्होंने अपना हिस्सा जो था, पार्टिसिपेंट जो था वो किया था। ये साथ ही साथ राजा माने जाते थे सिख किंगडम के, और साथ ही साथ उन्होंने प्लेस टू प्लेस अपने सिखिज़म का प्रचार प्रसार भी किया था। उसके बाद इन्होंने भाई बालक सिंह को क्या बना दिया था? हाजरों का फाउंडर बना दिया था, और उन्होंने ही उसको उपाधि भी दे दी थी नामधारी मूवमेंट की। साथ ही साथ बाबा राम सिंह जो थे वो लुधियाना डिस्ट्रिक्ट में बॉर्न हुए थे, और इसके बाद वो एक सिख आर्मी में सोल्जर अपॉइंट हो गए थे। ठीक है, इसके बाद उन्होंने काफ़ी सारे मूवमेंट जो थे वो सिख लोगों के लिए उन्होंने चलाए थे, और साथ ही साथ ये ब्रिटिशर्स के खिलाफ भी आवाज़ उठाते रहते थे, और ब्रिटिशर्स की जितनी भी नीतियाँ होती थी उनको ये खारिज करते रहते थे। स्पिरिट ऑफ fanatical national favor and religious enthusiasm grew among the Kukas, and the personality of Baba Ram Singh became the focal point of a close and well-organized order. The prospect was not looked upon with equanimity by the government, who after the incident of 1857, he became extra watchful. When in 1863, Baba Ram Singh wanted to go to Amritsar for Baisakhi celebration, to which he had invited his followers from all over the Punjab, the civil authority became alarmed. The Lieutenant Governor charged the Deputy Inspector General of Police and the Deputy Commissioner of Amritsar to ascertain the real attention of Baba Ram Singh and his companies. But 2 months later, when Kukas announced a meeting to be held at Kothe, a village in Firozpur district, prohibitory orders were issued banning all Kuka meeting. The Kuka organization was subjected to strict secret vigilance, and intelligence officers in district sent in alarming reports about its aims and activities. It was bruited about that Baba Ram Singh was raising an army to fight the English. Bhaini and Hajro were kept under continuous surveillance. Baba Ram Singh was sent to Andaman Island under life imprisonment for treason. He wrote a letter to his disciples in Punjab and other places. A selection of letters was published by Dr. Ganda Singh a few years later. The letters reveal Baba Ram Singh's undying faith, his strength of character, and his love for his followers. An occasional note of loneliness appears in these letters, though his spirit of patient fortitude always proved stronger. Baba Ram Singh passed away on November 29, 1885, but many of his followers did not believe that he was dead. They continued to hope that he would one day come to Punjab and free India from the shackles of the English. The Kuka movement marked a significant stage in the development of national consciousness in the country. In the 70s of the last century, when the English were reinstalling themselves in India after the revolt of 1857, it gave them another rude jolt. Like the Nirankaris and Namdharis also formed themselves into a separate sect, today they form a distinctively cohesive group among the Sikhs. Two things immediately mark them off from the later: the style of their headgear and their adherence to the personality of their leader, Baba Jagjit Singh, apparent in immaculate white homespun. They wind around their heads mule or long cloth without any resemblance or embellishment and without giving it any sharp emphatic lines. While chanting the sacred hymns, they work themselves up to such aesthetic frenzy that they begin dancing and shouting. From these shouts and shrieks, cook in Punjabi, some harmoniously inclined youth in a Ludhiana village called themselves Kuka, little knowing that they were conferring upon the newly developing order a name which would be widely accepted and which would outlive the more carefully chosen appellation adopted by its authors. The Kuka outbreak was followed by a secret campaign for the restoration of Maharaja Duleep Singh, the last Sikh king of Punjab, exiled by the British. The Punjab was the 1880s astir with rumors, anticipation filled the air. Reports were studiously kept in circulation that Duleep Singh would lead a Russian invasion into India and overthrow the British. A network of secret communication was laid out. Duleep Singh's emissaries kept infiltrating into India in spite of government vigilance. His statements and proclamation as from the sovereign of the Sikh nation and implacable foe of the British government were smuggled into the country for distribution, but he could not even get to India and died in a hotel in Paris. Duleep Singh, youngster son of Ranjit Singh, had 5 daughters and 1 son, all died issueless. तो बच्चों इसके बाद जो बाबा राम सिंह थे उनको उनके रिवोल्ट के बाद जो ब्रिटिशर्स थे उन्होंने कहाँ डाल दिया था, अंडमान निकोबार की जेल में उन्हें डाल दिया गया था। ठीक है, इसके बाद काफ़ी टाइम के बाद बाबा राम सिंह की क्या हो गई थी, मृत्यु हो गई थी और उनके जो फॉलोअर्स थे वो ये मानते थे कि वो दोबारा से जन्म लेंगे, दोबारा से उनके पंजाब में वो वापस आएंगे और उन्हें फ्री करेंगे ब्रिटिशर्स से। इसके बाद कूका मूवमेंट जो था वो स्टार्ट कराया गया था और निरंकारीज और जो नामधारीज थे वो इकट्ठा एक साथ आए थे और उन्होंने ब्रिटिशर्स के खिलाफ क्या उठाई थी, आवाज़ उठाई थी। इसके बाद कूका जो था वो आउटब्रेक हुआ जिसके थ्रू जितने भी सीक्रेट कंपेनियंस थे वो महाराजा दुलीप सिंह के द्वारा रिस्टोर किए गए थे और साथ ही साथ जो पंजाब का जितना भी एरिया था जो ब्रिटिशर्स ने एक्साइल कर दिया था वो भी उनसे क्या कर लिया गया था, लेने के लिए उन्होंने क्या किया था, उनके खिलाफ रिवोल्ट जो था वो स्टार्ट कर दिया था। Keywords: Zamindar in Mughal times, they were tax collectors and mediators between the peasants and the governments. Mahal in British revenue record. Mahal is a revenue estate which may be a village or a group of villages. Plantation, a large farm operated by a planter employing various forms of forced labor. Plantation are associated with the production of coffee, sugarcane, tobacco, tea and cotton. Slave, a person who is owned by someone else, the slave owner. A slave has no freedom and is compelled to work for the master. Biga, a unit of measurement of land. Before British rule, the size of this area varied. In Bengal, the British standardized it to about 1/3 of an acre. Let's recapitulate. Till the 18th century, there was a strong relation between agriculture and cottage industries in India. The Rayatwari settlement was introduced mainly in Madras, Bellore, Bombay and Assam. The early years of the English East India Company's rule in India witnessed a large number of uprising and rebellion. Peasants of Rangpur and Dinajpur, 2 districts of Bengal, were aggrieved by the tyranny of the revenue contractor. Baba Ram Singh, born at Bhaini in Ludhiana district in 1816, was a soldier in the Sikh army. Duleep Singh, the youngest son of Ranjit Singh, had 5 daughters and 1 son, all died issueless. So children, I hope आपको ये चैप्टर अच्छे से समझ में आ गया होगा। अब इसका रिवीजन और दी गई एक्सरसाइज की प्रैक्टिस आप खुद से करेंगे।